Evening. You can't see me there. I'm still getting used to it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Rambles, episode 13. And you know, they say 13's unlucky for some. Well, we've been hit by technical difficulties in many shapes and forms. We'll explain as we go along. But welcome to Friday Night Rambles, episode 13. And we've got a treat for you today because we have got someone that does everything. I mean, literally everything. He acts, he directs, he puts on frocks. I mean, everything. And we're just going to crack straight on, was it? We've got Jack Edwards here. Hello, Jack.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right now. I'm on. I do apologise. It was my fault, everyone. My fault. So apparently Virgin Media in my area is down. So I've now managed to log on to my Mac, which I don't use very often. And I'm streaming, or not streaming, I'm linked to my hotspot on my mobile phone. So fingers crossed, nothing will go wrong. So I do apologise.
I hope you've got unlimited internet.
I do, funny enough. So that's good. I am sweating at the moment, as you can see. Or I'm glowing, should I say. Yeah.
Glowing. I think glowing's better. But you've cracked a lot of wine open.
I've got a glass of wine as well.
So how is everything going with you? Because you've got a lot of different hats going on at the moment, which we'll gradually come to.
So yeah, it's it's an interesting time at the moment. Lot going on. So we at the King's Theatre, so with my hat of creative director on, obviously went into lockdown in March, and then we set up a leadership team within our venue, and we have meetings, or had meetings, every day. And we just decided from back then in April, pretty much, this wasn't going to beat us. We were just going to plan everything and carry on as we have been doing. So we said from April, we are doing a panto, whatever happens. Yeah. As long as the government allow, we are going ahead and we are doing a panto. Because we had one booked. We had Peter Pan booked, with John Chalice. And that was going ahead. But obviously Peter Pan, as you know, it's quite an expensive show, you know, with the flying and all the different effects. So we said probably with this year, we'll postpone Peter Pan, but we still need a panto. So we looked at all the different titles and we came up with Dick Whittington, which we don't normally do. So you know what it's like with a theatre or a producer. They have a bit of a guinea pig wheel where hamster wheel, not guinea pig, hamster wheel. Where, they're similar, where you have a circular of shows and you just keep repeating year after year, etc. But we don't do Dick Whittington. We've never done it. So we said, let's do it. It's a good one to do. But we want to make it a Pompey panto. So I don't know if your viewers are know what Pompey is. Pompey is basically an abbreviation of Portsmouth. Yeah. So it's so we're doing a Pompey panto with all local artists. Basically, it's all local pros that have gone and done West End shows, etc. And we've managed to get them in. And we've just announced recently Sean Smith, which you probably remember from X Factor. He was in Same Difference
back in
the day. So he's playing our Dick Whittington. And we've cast everything else, and they're going to be announced as the coming weeks happen. So we're really, really excited, and I'm playing Dame as well, so I'm really excited about that.
And that's all very exciting because at the end of the day, we all need a bit of light relief from everything that's going on at the moment, and obviously, the industry, as we kind of have been seeing, all these pantos, for whatever reason, whether it's because they can't socially distance or whatever they had planned can't happen, they've been pulled. But it's nice to know that there is something going ahead in some shape or capacity for the people, especially in the South, who may be able to come and see it.
Exactly. It's difficult because I totally respect big producers that have budgets of millions and millions of pounds. I understand. And they can't put on these big shows because if they're social distancing, they just don't have the bums on seats that can generate that income. So there's no way that they can do that. But we're quite lucky. We've got a cracking CEO called Paul Wolfe, who's been in the theatre now for about 3 or 4 years, and he's really turned the venue around. Because 20 years ago it was going to turn into a Wetherspoons, and it's a beautiful Matcham theatre, stunning. And he's turned it around, and we actually have some reserves, which is a bit unknown in theatre. And we've been quite lucky in that we've ring fenced a lot of that money. So we have a pot of money for our customers that have bought tickets. So if anything gets cancelled, that goes straight back to them. That's, that is absolute guarantee. But we've also got a pot of money of reserves. So that's what's sort of been seeing us through this process. But we've also got enough now to actually produce our own show. So we're quite lucky, but I totally understand not every venue can do that, because not every venue's in the same situation as us. And who knows, 10 years time, we might not be in that situation again, but we're going to try and sort of, carry on with it and grasp at it and let's just go for it, and as long as the government allow, we're doing it at 400 seats, socially distanced. We're a 1,400 seat venue, so we can really get the social distancing in place, which we're doing at the moment. We've got some test events happening next week, and I've booked in our first event, which is the 5th of September, and we're showing the stage version of 42nd Street.
Bonnie Langford.
Bonnie Langford, and we've actually managed to get Bonnie to come down and do a Q&A with the movie. So which is really exciting, because it's not just about showing the film. We've actually got a little bit extra, and we're doing the same with a Matthew Bourne season, and we've got Matthew Bourne coming down as well, and also Jerry Mitchell for Kinky Boots. So we've tried to do something slightly different. We know that we're not going to be able to sell it out, but we'll have probably a couple of hundred people at each screening, and it'll just be a very exclusive, sort of up close and personal. So we're really excited about that.
And that's quite exciting as well. And I've been following all what the King's Theatre has been doing. I think there's a lot of industry people have been following it as well. And the way that you and Paul have been doing the videos and the updates and been talking about, especially how people can book the tickets for the panto, it's actually very, very logical. And it actually makes a lot of sense. So how, if people from the Pompey area or the south coast are thinking about booking a panto, what is the process for that? Because I found that really quite interesting.
So basically, it's just like everything else. You just book a ticket, and what's going to happen is 2 weeks before that, you can't book a seat. You cannot book a specific seat, but you book a ticket. And if you are in a bubble of, say, 8 or less or more, you will be sat together. So you will all sit in your bubbles. So it's not a case of like what the Palladium did, where they had like a row of seats with X's on, and then a row of seats that were empty. It's a case of, we've got someone very clever in our marketing team, Jane, who's worked a lot in the industry producing, and she's done a lot of stuff in the West End. So she's worked out a way of bubbling areas within the seats. So it means that we can actually probably get maybe a few more in, but we're still very much socially distanced. Today we had a meeting today for about 4 hours, which basically was just to talk about the safety. We've had a huge deep clean. We've got all of the signage now put up. So we're really ready to go. So basically, as you say, people can go onto our website, book a seat. They will then get emailed 2 weeks before the event, and they will be told what seats they're going to be in. But obviously, if you've got disability issues or whatever, you just have to make our staff aware, and we will cater as well as we can. We've also got now in-seat app service, bit like the pubs and stuff. So we've got that, which is a great thing for us. Something we always thought about doing later on down the line, but now this has prompted us to do it quicker. So we're doing that, which is really exciting. All tickets are £20 right across the board. So we think that's affordable for anybody. So yeah, that's really the process. And as you say, me and Paul have been on Facebook just trying to keep our audience engaged. That's the most important thing, is to make sure that our public are safe, and if they feel safe, then they're going to want to come back into our venue. So we're making sure that everything is ready to go for our audiences.
And before we sort of move on from talking about this for a little bit, how's the response been from the people down by the King's Theatre?
It's amazing. People want to get back into the theatre. They've had such a horrible time, as we all have, and I mean, look, let's not underestimate how horrible this thing has been. I know, we're all talking about, oh, we need to open, we need to do this, and of course we do, but we've got to also remember that a lot of people have lost their lives, which has been a really sad thing. But we've had such brilliant response from the local people and also people from surrounding areas. I mean, we've got a lot of pantos that have pulled around our area. One of the biggest ones is the Mayflower. And Michael, who I know really well, who's the CEO there, I mean, I've been chatting to him, and again, they're in a position where they've got an outside producer. They can't afford to put on this huge multi-million-pound show. It's just not viable for them, but we work very closely together, and I'd like to think that if we can provide Southampton with a panto, then come along. The same with Guildford. I know that was postponed, and Poole today. There's all these areas around us, and we're not that far away. So I think if we can put on a panto for everybody, not just Portsmouth, come along and have a party, because I really believe that that's what we need to be doing now.
So we'll talk a little bit about the panto in a little bit, but I want to go back to the beginning. So how did you start in the biz of show?
In the biz of show, so it was always something that I loved to do at school, which obviously a lot of people do. If I was ever lost anywhere, you just go to the drama class and you'll find me somewhere. And I just loved it. I've loved it, and I've done musicals at school and things like that. And it was actually one of my teachers that just said to me, have you thought about doing this? And I was like, no, not at all. So I joined the amateur dramatics group, the Portsmouth Players, who are just fantastic, and I'm still very much involved with them. I'm chairman of the society now. I don't perform, but I direct and chair. And I just got the bug. And I went to college. I did a BTEC course. And I passed it, funny enough, which was good. which was but actually my GCSE drama, I only got I think it was a C, so I was really disappointed in that, really disappointed. And then so as I say, I went to South Downs College and I did my BTEC course, and one of the lecturers there said, you have to apply for a drama school. So I said, I don't really know, I can't afford it, because obviously back in the day, it was basically fund yourself, or there were grants given. There was 15 grants within our area. So I thought, okay, I'll apply. So I applied for, I think, 3 schools, and I think it was Mount View, Guildford, and I can't remember the other one. And I got into Guildford, and I was so excited by that. And then I went for the grant audition, and basically there was 15 grants. I was 16th on the list. So I was reserve. And I was hoping and praying that somebody was going to drop out. It never happened. So I never went to Guildford because I just couldn't afford to go. My parents just were like, we'll remortgage the house, we'll do this. We just weren't in a position to do that. So I said, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on my own. And back then was when you had open auditions for every West End show. And you just queued around the block and you just tried to get in everywhere you could. And it was, it was fantastic. And I didn't really have much luck with that. Then I got into the panto thing, and my first break was I was doing pantomime in Stevenage, and I was playing King Rat, and a casting director called Neil Rutherford, who I think is still casting. He used to work for ATG years and years and years ago, and he came to see the show, and he stayed in the bar afterwards, and he asked to see me, and he said, look, I'd love to see you for a casting of Nicey Nicey Johnson and Guys and Dolls at the Piccadilly Theatre. And I was like, okay, great, like any other audition, I'm sure it'll be fine, it'll be lovely. Anyway, went for the audition. The next day I got a call to say I got the job. Brilliant, was like over the moon. But I was having to then go into London, rehearse it while I was still doing Dick Whittington at night type thing. So that was really tough. So that was my break into the West End, and I was so excited. But we shut within 3 months because I went in at the end of the run. and it was Don Johnson and Claire Sweeney, and we basically closed within 3 months. And I thought, that's it, that's my time, I've done it, and I loved it. And then that's when it all sort of kicked off, and I started to then get a couple of other West End shows, UK tours, all sorts of things. But I always did panto every year, but it was only a slight period within that where I couldn't do panto. It's probably about 5 years where I had other shows that I couldn't do, but panto's just in the blood. So that was my sort of break into it, and I've had the most wonderful career. I've loved it. I just got to a point a few years ago where I thought, I've had enough now of traveling. I've had enough of traveling up and down to London, touring the country, touring around Europe. And I sort of hit my 40s and I thought, this is it. I need to settle down and do something else. But I needed something still within the theatre. And I started another project that I did for a while. That wasn't really theatre, but was still in the entertainment industry. And then during that, I got approached by the King's Theatre because I was doing panto, and they said, well, what about sort of part-time, sort of artistic director, creative director? And I thought, well, what have I trained? I haven't trained in that. What do I know about it? And anyway, I sort of did that as a little bit of a part-time job, and I seemed to get on really well there. And now I'm sort of fully blown full-time and loving every minute of it.
Yeah.
So it's like a full circle for me. If I can't perform anymore, I can still be involved with theatre. And if you can be involved in any theatre, you want to be involved in your own theatre in your own town. And the fact that I get to do panto every year as well, then I'm very lucky, very lucky.
And the type of shows you've done, I mean, I've got a list here. Again, you said you've done Guys and Dolls. Well, you're lucky to do Guys and Dolls twice.
I did it twice. I did 2 brilliant productions, very different productions. So the first one was the Michael Grandage production, which was just brilliant, which was quite dark. I mean, Guys and Dolls is quite dark in some ways, but then I was fortunate enough to do another production, which was the Chichester production, but I didn't do it in Chichester. Yeah. There we go. Yes. Is that the one?
That's the one. Yeah.
Wow. Where was that? Newcastle?
Newcastle, yeah. I can see it in Newcastle.
God, I love that show so much. Louise Dearman, Richard Fleischman, Anna O'Brien. We just had the best cast. It was like you couldn't wish for the best cast. And the reorchestrations, it was one of the best things I've ever done. Even though I've done it before, I loved doing it again. And plus I got to take it to Tel Aviv, which was even better, because you just finished the whole tour and we went to Tel Aviv and we did it out there. It was brilliant.
And so you closed it in the West End again as well?
And then I did do it in the West End. So I then went into the last couple of weeks in the West End of that production at the Savoy, and I closed the show basically with Rebel Wilson.
Right. So what was that like?
Yeah. Well, look, for me, listen, Rebel is, I think she's very talented. I think in what she does and what she, I watched, what's the films that she, Pitch Perfect. Absolutely loved it. Watched it the other night. I sat here with my wife and we watched it the other night and I absolutely loved it. And that is her all over. She's brilliant at that. I'm not sure musical theatre is suitable for her. Maybe in specific roles, possibly, but I don't think she was in Adelaide at all. And I was very upset with some of the ways that she sort of did things with the part. And when you've done it with Sam Spiro, and then you've done it with Louise Dearman and you've done it with Claire Sweeney and, everyone else that's done it, it just wasn't the right thing for me. I think she just didn't do it justice, sadly. But it didn't harm the production because it's Rebel Wilson and everyone's, she's a huge movie star. And, but I just, she was okay. She was okay. Nice person, but not sure she was in Adelaide.
But you had a really good cast to close London as well, because you had Simon Lipkin, Ollie Thompson.
They are just and to be fair, they came to Tel Aviv as well. So we had a brilliant time out there. And yeah, I mean, every every West End performer that was in that show, you know, everyone knows of them. It was, you know, it was so well cast. And I think because everyone wanted to be in it, everyone just like, if there was an opportunity to be in it, they wanted to be in it. So it was fantastic. And I loved Guys and Dolls. It's got a really special place in my heart. Whatever production I've done of it, it's just something about that part. If there's a part ever written for me, that was probably the role. So I'm very lucky. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to do some other roles as well, which is good. Which is
another show you've been in, Mac and Mabel. Again, another Chichester show.
Chichester, it was fantastic. So that came about. I was doing a production of Amadeus at Chichester because Stephen Mear did the choreography for Amadeus. Now, I'm sure people that know Amadeus, it's a play with music. And when I got the call to say, you know, they want to see you for an audition, it was like, well, there's nothing for me in Amadeus. Anyway, I played the cook. And Stephen Mear basically choreographed the whole thing. It was beautiful. It was basically, we were like a glorified scene shifters. We basically were like Pickfords, and we just basically all came on and shifted set and moved things around. But it was all choreographed beautifully. But I had the added extra that I had a small role as well. So I was very lucky with that. But Mac and Mabel came off the back of that because Jonathan, I forgot his name. Was that awful? It'll come to me in a moment. Jonathan, who was the artistic director at Chichester, he asked me, and Stephen asked me if I'd come back and do Mac and Mabel to play Fatty Arbuckle, which I was just ecstatic about. But then, obviously, when they told me who was playing Mac, I was even more ecstatic because it's somebody that I've always wanted to work with, which was Michael Ball. Who is just the loveliest man in showbiz. He really, really is. He's just, I don't know what it is about him, but he's so professional, but God, does that man like a laugh? He really, really likes a laugh. So that was a real lovely, heartwarming production. And I think it was the best production that's ever been done of it. And why it never went to the West End, I will never know, because it had all the ingredients. It was beautiful. But it's just sadly that Mac and Mabel's one of those shows that just doesn't make it. But I
believe it's Jonathan Church, I think the name.
Jonathan Church, of course. That's
David.
I can't believe I forgot his name. Jonathan, if you're watching, I do apologise. But yeah, he was fantastic. He was fantastic. Yeah. So I was very lucky.
There's something about Chichester that I think there's got to be something in the water down there. Because there have been some incredible shows. If you think about the last sort of, well, in my mind, the last sort of 10 years, you've got the likes of Singing in the Rain, Gypsy, obviously Mac and Mabel, Guys and Dolls, Barnum.
But everyone's fighting for an audition. I tell you now, everyone in the business, when they know that there's a show going to Chichester, whatever that show may be, everyone is desperate for an audition because there's something about that amazing venue. I remember Michael Ball always saying Chichester Theatre is like a hug because it comes around you. It's like this big, warm hug. And it's so true. You stand on that stage and it's beautiful. I mean, it's so different from the Kings, but it's still got its own character and it's beautiful. And even the Minerva, they put some brilliant stuff on. So, I mean, you know, if anyone's never been to Chichester, go, because it's incredible, incredible.
I'd love to see something actually in Chichester because I've just seen Guys and Dolls. That's the only thing I've seen Chichester-wise. And I think just the quality of what they produce is just
so clever. Well, how they use that stage.
Brilliant. But then again, regional theatre as well. And this is the whole reason why we're doing this, is to support local theatre. And I think some of the regional theatres in the country are just marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. Another show that you did, which I want to quickly talk about, Rocky Horror.
Now, Rocky Horror was a massive experience for me. We did it abroad. We did it in Europe. We did it all around Germany and Switzerland. And it was just one of the best things actually I've ever done. I know I keep saying that about a lot of shows, but it really was. The experience with that was superb. So I played Eddie Dr. Scott. So came on at the last 3 minutes of Act 1 and spent the Act 2 in a wheelchair. So I was, you know, it's quite a good job for me. Brilliant. just fantastic. Richard was involved a little bit in it as well. He came to opening night, so that was great to be able to work with him. And actually, on the back of that, I got another job called The Stripper. And I don't know if you know The Stripper. It's another musical that Richard wrote, and Richard was in it, and we did a very small tour of that. He is one crazy guy. I mean, he's brilliant, but he's one crazy guy. But that was superb. I loved Rocky Horror, and I would do it again at a drop of a hat, actually.
It's very panto-esque, isn't it?
Oh my God. I think that's probably why I loved it so much. You know, it's very much like that. I mean, the music is just brilliant, and we had a great production of it as well. It was very different from the UK production that goes around. It's very, very, very different. But God, the Germans love it. They absolutely love it. Yeah, so I would do that again.
So can you remember? Because speaking about panto, because obviously you said panto is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
What was your first experience of panto?
My first panto was Mother Goose at the Electric Theatre in Guildford. Tiny little theatre, tiny little venue. And I played one of the comedy duo. And I just remember, I remember watching panto as a kid. But when I actually got the first job, I couldn't believe I was doing it. And it was such a tiny show. You know, I mean, yeah, great audience. I think it was probably 100-seat venue. We had such a good time. And I knew then that panto was absolutely what I wanted to do every year. And I did. I was lucky enough to do it every year.
Yeah. Can you remember anybody that you saw in panto as well?
Yeah, I saw the brilliant Jack Tripp years ago. And I think it was down in Plymouth. And it was with Roy Hudd. And Jack Tripp, I don't know if many people would remember. I mean, a lot of the older generation would remember him, but his Dame is just beautiful. He was stunning Dame. But he looked good. He was a bit Danny LaRue-esque, but you still knew it was a man in a frock. He wasn't being a woman impersonator as such, but he was, you know, he was the real deal. And then obviously, you know, when you go and see pantos, you know, I mean, Gary Wilmot, brilliant Dame. Absolutely fantastic. Loved him at the Palladium. Brian Connolly, you know, I haven't done panto with him, but I've done Oliver with him. But my favourite panto artist has to be Bradley Walsh, who I did panto 2 years running with him in Stevenage, and he is just a genius. I learnt a lot of my craft from him. I probably still use a lot of his gags now, because they were just so funny then. And I remember just sitting in the wings watching him, just being in awe of what that man would do. He's just brilliant. And he is, again, a genuine, lovely person. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have seen Les Dawson. I'd love to have seen all those greats years and years ago. But, you know, that is what it is. But
So what did you play when you were with Bradley?
So when I was with Bradley, I was Ugly Sister. And then we did Jack and the Beanstalk, and I did a character. It wasn't Flesh Creep, it was another character, and it was for Kevin Woods. Do you remember Kevin Wood back in the day?
Kevin Wood, yeah.
Kevin Wood, yeah. Before he took over at FFE, and then Evolution obviously took over.
I met him last year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he's somebody that really did help me along in my career at the start of panto. He was the first person that gave me like what I call my first proper big panto as a part, and that was Ugly Sister. I've always played baddie, you see. It's always been Ugly Sister, King Rat, Flesh Creep type character. And then I just turn the corner and, you know, you sort of put in a few extra pounds and you go, it's probably time for Dame. So I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. Yeah.
So when was your first Dame?
My first Dame was for Evolution, and it was down in Yeovil, and it was Peter Pan, and I played Mrs. Starkey, because they had somebody already playing Smee, so they made basically like the Chips cook. So that was my first Dame. Paul Hendy took a punt and said, "Yeah, we'd like you to do it," and never looked back. and I've loved every minute of it. Dame is just, I don't know what it is. I just love it. I think because you've got that little bit of free reign and you can just play with the audience so much. And I just adore it. I adore it.
Now, we had some dames on last week, and they found it hard to describe their dame in 3 words. So how would you describe your dame in 3 words?
Manly. Oh, goodness me. I really can't explain. I can't. Is this what they did last week?
Yeah, I think I gave them 5 words. I think I've been more cruel to you.
I mean, I would say Les and Dawson. There we are.
Fair enough. You mentioned Oliver, and I totally bypassed Oliver. So you did the Cameron McIntosh tour of
I did.
Oliver. What was that like?
16 months of my life.
Wow.
No, I loved it. It was, again, a great experience. One, being involved in a Cameron McIntosh show, which was a joy. We did 16 months on the road. We had Neil Morrissey as Fagin, and also Brian Connolly as Fagin. They swapped halfway through. We had a terrific cast. Sam Barks, who is now a massive superstar, playing Elsa, I think.
Elsa, yes.
She was our Nancy, and we were in Manchester when she got told that she got the part of Eponine in the movie of Les Mis. Cameron came on stage. We actually thought, we saw Cameron in the wings, and we thought, oh God, we're closing. That's it. He's coming on to tell us we're going, And then they came on, all this champagne, and we were going, what's going on? And that was it. And they announced Sam as the new Nancy. So that, not Nancy, Eponine, sorry, in Les Mis. So that was fantastic. That show, that is a very, very special show for anybody, I think, to be in. It's, again, a real classic, but it was tough. 16 months on the road was really tough. Really tough. But the beauty of it was every venue you went to, you probably had a minimum of 4 weeks and a maximum of 8. So you could settle in each venue. So you didn't mind it so much. It wasn't like weekly touring where you're living out of a suitcase. So it was a little bit easier. And it was just lovely to just get into Cameron. I mean, I did a show before that, is how I got the show. Do you know Betty Blue Eyes? Did you ever?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So Betty Blue Eyes was a brand new show that Cameron, it's a Styles and Drew show, and Cameron took up the producer on that. So I was doing the workshop, and Cameron was involved in the workshop, and he said, we're going to do this, whatever it takes, we're going to put it in the West End. And they offered me the role, which I didn't expect at all. So I was really pleased to play the role that fell in love with Betty the pig. Strange, I know. Based on the movie The Private Function with Michael Palin, Maggie Smith, etc., etc. Beautiful music, fantastic score. We had Sarah Lancashire, we had Reece Shearsmith, Adrian Scarborough. It was just a cast, again, to die for. And we thought it was going to be Cameron's next big, massive hit show that would run and run and run. And it lasted 6 months. We had all the reviews. There was nothing more we could do with that show. It had everything going for it, but sadly it closed. And I was then lucky enough to go straight from that into the new touring production of Oliver. So I've been lucky with Cameron as well. So I feel really privileged, really, really privileged.
So where's been like your favourite venues to play in the country? But you can't say Southsea. You can't say that.
I can't say Southsea. I can't say the Mayflower because they're too close to home. Do you know what venue I love? Is the Hackney Empire. Gorgeous venue. I did a concert version of Mac and Mabel there. And maybe it's because it's a Matcham. I don't know what it is, but I always know when I go into a Matcham because it feels like home. Edinburgh, the Playhouse, fantastic. Great venue. I have to say Newcastle I loved as well. But I suppose I've got to say that, haven't I? What's your nearest venue?
I've got Whitley Bay, but Newcastle's close as well.
So, but I'm not just saying that, but great theatre. But
again, a Matcham.
A Matcham theatre as well, exactly. So it's something about a Matcham that I absolutely love. But to be honest with you, they've all got character. I don't know if I feel too good about the more modern venues. I don't know. I don't mind them, but I prefer a real proper, nice, old-fashioned venue.
Yeah, because the King's is a gorgeous theatre.
It is stunning. It's 1907 it was built, and she's still standing and she looks beautiful. We just had a new carpet laid in the stalls, which is really good because it was probably there from day one. But it is a real stunning venue, and it's very similar to Wimbledon, actually. So Wimbledon Theatre is like on the corner, and the King's is exactly the same, and they're pretty similar inside as well. But yeah, we're so lucky to have a venue like that in Portsmouth. We really, really are.
And I think this is the thing about local theatres as well, because they're so grand, it gives you that sense of magic, even though you're not in the West End, it gives you that sense of magic. And speaking of magic, we're going to play a game. This is called Don't Hesitate. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about the game. So how the game works is you're going to get a chosen subject and you're going to talk for 60 seconds. If you pause, any hesitation whatsoever, the time stops.
Oh, goodness me.
I am harsh.
I'm going to be rubbish at this. I'm just going to tell you.
Well, here's your subject.
Yeah.
Wheels. How do you feel about that? I'm going to put the doom screen, and how do you feel? Okay, your time starts now.
Wheels are a great thing. They are circular and they have spokes. They also are on bikes, which I love a bike. I really do love a bike, and especially cars as well, because they're on cars. They also, Sorry.
You beat me, though, 14 seconds.
14? Was it really?
I got 13 seconds when I did this. And I tell you who else, and I always say this to make people feel better. Danny Rogers, bless him, the son of Ted Rogers. If anybody's watching and watched 3, 2, 1, was Ted Rogers. Danny is Ted's son. Danny got 4 seconds.
The same word?
No, he got something completely else. Everyone gets a completely different subject.
One dusty bin, was it?
No, what did he have? I can't remember. Someone will be able to tell me. Jamie, if you're watching, you'll be able to tell me. My producer Jamie, because he was on that episode. So I want to just sort of quickly wrap this up in a couple of minutes. First of all, actually, we've got a lovely thing here. First of all, David Burton, happy birthday, David Burton. Lovely man. He said, lovely to hear, seeing here, Jack on here. Great admiration for his work and what he's doing with the panto at the King's this year.
Ah, lovely, David. Thank you, David.
And happy birthday.
David actually auditioned for our panto recently, and sadly, it just there's reasons behind why David didn't get it, but it was nothing to do with what he could do. He was fantastic.
Bless him. He's been up in Whitley Bay quite a few times in my local.
I will email you, David. But thank you very much for your message.
Bless him. So this is the sort of the part of the show where we talk about local theatre and why we think local theatre is important. So why do you think local theatre is important?
Local theatre, without local theatre, we don't have the West End. Without the West End, we don't have local theatre. All theatre is important. So it's all very well that the government at the moment are banging on about West End, West End. Listen, I love the West End. You know that from this whole conversation. It's the best thing in the world. Broadway, West End, any of these great theatre places, theatre lands. But you cannot survive in theatre without local venues, regional theatre. Regional theatre is the home and the, for local talent to bloom, blossom, to really create things for people to go on into the industry and then hopefully go into the West End. As you've rightly said, Chichester, our venue, the Mayflower. You've also got all these other producing houses all over the country that are just put, even like Southwark Playhouse and the Chocolate Factory, all of these beautiful little venues. Chocolate Factory I've played, actually. I did Sweet Charity there. It was fantastic. But you cannot get away from regional theatre. If we lose regional theatre, we have no more theatre because the West End will not survive without it. We have to have it. It's so important. People must not just support the West End. They have to support the West End, but they must support their regional theatre as well. Because you won't get to see the big shows, the big blockbuster shows that sometimes tour regional theatres before they go into the West End. and vice versa. So if I can say one thing, please support regional theatre. It's one of the most amazing things that we have in this country, and without it, we've got nothing.
Because the thing that really does my nut in about it, and I've not really talked about this as much on here, is the fact that the likes of Cameron Mackintosh's shows, the way the modern musical has been transformed is through replication of the same show.
Yeah.
And from mounting tours, mounting it to America, mounting it in its different, like in its same incarnation, so everyone gets the same magic. Now, if we didn't have theatres or as many theatres that these shows can go to, then we've got an issue.
That's right. You take away these houses like the Curve in Leicester, you take away Plymouth. I don't know if they do it so much these days. Plymouth used to be the one venue that all the big musicals started at. Because they've got a big workshop. You take away those venues, as you rightly say, you take away the Curve, this is where those musicals start. So if we haven't got them, there is no theatre left. The West End will not survive just on that amount of venues, because it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And another thing is, I don't want to get too political, but obviously with the announcement of this money, the £1.57 billion, where is it?
Where is it? Where's it going? Who's going to have it? I don't know. Because again, it's not all well. It's going to lots of it's going to be art galleries and museums and theatres. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if the theatre has to be completely on its arse, that they're bankrupt, or I don't know. I don't know if that's the only way they're going to get that money, because none of us know where it's going or where it's gone yet, because nobody said anything. So until they actually tell us what's going to happen, please, government, just do something. Give out, share it equally among the venues if you can. We all are struggling, even though I'm saying we've got a bit of reserves. Reserves don't last long. We all need this money. So please, please, please start to do something and let us know what is going to happen with it.
Because I feel like, and I don't know if this is what you feel as well. I feel we made so much noise to get what we were having, to get this money. I feel the noise is starting to die off a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And I think sadly, the government are only listening to the big, impresarios. So the Cameron Mackintoshes and Lloyd Webbers, don't get me wrong. I think they're doing a great job, especially Lloyd Webber. I mean, what he's doing, I think, is brilliant. But I think the government need to start listening to regional. I know I keep banging on about regional theatre, but they really need to come out into the outskirts and actually go around to regions and look at the venues and talk to CEOs of those venues or creative directors or whatever, and actually see what it actually feels like outside of the West End, because I really believe the government only think about the West End and they think that is the only place that does theatre.
But then again, I also think that is unless you are an avid theatre goer, I think that is another thing that people tend to think. Theatre is just the West End or West End shows that go around. It's the likes of got a comment here. Well said, Jack. Couldn't agree more. We need to keep fighting. That's from Jamie there.
Oh, thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, but it's the likes of, again, Sheffield, 2 fantastic theatres there. Newcastle has got Northern Stage, Live Theatre. You've got the great ones. See, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I mean, people have forgotten that exists this week.
Absolutely. And also, can we not forget, this isn't just the theatre. I mean, yes, of course, you've got all your backstage, you've got your wigs and technical side, but it also is a knock-on effect for every other industry, like your restaurants, and everything else that's around theatres, that rely on theatre people to go into their bars and things like that as well. It's a whole knock-on effect. People need to understand that the theatre industry put billions of pounds into the economy. We cannot forget that. It's not just about getting on stage and having a laugh, because it really isn't that. It obviously that is part of the job as well, is having a good time. But we have to remember that it really does put in a lot of money to the economy. And
fingers crossed, as the Panthers that are going ahead, that is still able to happen. So if people in the South want to go see Dick Whittington, how do they get tickets?
So if they go onto our website, www.kingsportsmouth.co.uk, hopefully the phone lines will be open soon, and that will be 02392 828282. £20 a ticket. If it doesn't go ahead, guaranteed you will get your money back.
And fingers crossed it does go ahead. I think for me, and I know Gareth is saying the same here, wish you best of luck with the Panto.
Bless you.
I really do hope it goes well, and I do hope that we get some sort of theatre back before the end of the year, whether it is social distance, whether it is virtual. I hope we get something back.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and all credit to like Regent's Park and these other venues that are putting on shows, and they're ready to go. Fantastic. Let's just keep it going, and everyone just stick together and be safe.
Yeah, Jack, do you know what? It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. And we will see you all next week for another episode of Friday Night Rambles. We'll be announcing our lineup, I think Wednesday. We're going to announce it this week. So stay tuned for that. But from Jack and from me, it's a goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.